Hi there, if you want to learn how to create sound effects, then you are in the right place. In this video, I'll be showing you how I created these water explosion sound effects. I'll be breaking them down, showing you my sources, processing effects, everything, so that you can create them for yourself. All right, so here we are inside of Reaper, and you'll see I've split my sound effect. I had 3 different layer categories that I was going for. The first one up here is just like a quick transient sweep. Then I had kind of a crunchy or distortion layers. And you can hear they're playing off of each other, not exactly on top of each other at the same time, right? So there's a cadence to how they're playing. And then I have the body and tail of the sound here. Okay, so let's go through each of these so I can show you how I created these from scratch. All right, so to start, I created a patch inside of Faceplant for the quick sweep, the quick transient sweep, and it's a pretty simple patch. So let me show you what it is here. Basically, I have a sampler up here, and then down here I have a filter with a bandpass. And then I have an LFO here, which is just a down ramp LFO that's assigned to the cutoff here and the cue. So if I take off everything here, right, so it's just a simple bandpass that has like a really sharp peak that is sweeping down over time. Right, after that, I just added another filter to just bring up the volume a bit more. So that's what that is doing. And then that's pretty much it. So again, everything's assigned to the cutoff, the cue, and the gain here. And then the random LFO here is just to choose a different part in the sample here so that my sound is always different every time I play it. I note on my keyboard, on my MIDI keyboard, every time I trigger it. And then I just added a quick transient here so that my attack is a bit more snappy. And you'll see here I'm modulating the attack so that the beginning is transient heavy, but then after that it kind of stops. So actually, probably it would be better to have it kind of like this here. Right, so you have a transient attack, and then you have a smooth kind of release. If you don't want that louder tail, you can just bring it down. Or even do it like this. Right, and I think what I did specifically for the layer that was here is I think I just had a steeper slope. So if you bring up the slope to like 6 here. Right, you just have a lot more of that sweeping sound, like filter sweep. So that's how I created that layer. And of course, you can swap out the source here if you want a different kind of tailhead sound. But honestly, if you're just doing a sweep, it doesn't matter too much what your sound source is here, just because the sweep is going by so fast that you won't actually hear the details of the sound source. But anyways, that's how I created this one here. And let me just show you the effects I put on here. A lot of it is just to kind of put it to taste, but really, you could probably just leave it as is. But let's hear what I did here. So I have recenter. So I think phase messages here is not doing what I originally wanted it to do. I find it kind of does that sometimes. It doesn't save the preset properly. Anyways, I'm going to leave it like this. Hi there, we'll get back to the video in just a moment, but before we do, I want to tell you about Airwiggles. Now, if you've never heard of Airwiggles, they are an online hub for anybody interested in audio. On there, you can learn tips and tricks from industry professionals, you can find work opportunities, you can also share your work and get feedback on your work, or you can just go there and hang out with other people who are just as passionate as you about audio. Now, I want to tell you about their Film Audio Faceoff competition. For this competition, you get to form a team and redesign audio from a clip from the film Binocular Trick. And if you're a lucky finalist, you can also win prizes. There's over $20,000 worth of prizes for all of the finalists. So make sure to check it out. Go to airwiggles.com/faceoff for all the details. Now back to the video. Okay, let's go to our next layers here, which is our crunch distortion layers. All right, and the way that I created that is, again, inside of Faceplant again, I had another patch that I created. And this is a distortion impact patch that I created. So let me show you what that looks like. All right, so I have quite a few LFOs down here. All right, but let's start at the top here. So at first here, we have our sampler here so that I can import whatever sound sources that I want. After that, on here, I have two different filters here. I have a nonlinear filter, this to add some distortion. And you can see I have a random LFO being assigned to this. Or sorry, not a random LFO, just a quick LFO. It could be a random LFO though, that's just kind of quickly adding distortion. And then another LFO here that is changing the transient so that anytime I'm playing a sound, it's going to affect a different part of the frequency spectrum and distort that frequency spectrum. So it's just basically a way of adding variation or change to your sound. That's really what this is doing here. Okay, after that, I have my filter down here. And what this is doing here is adding low end every time I play a note. So you can see here I have a LFO shape here that is just basically... It's basically almost a down ramp, really, because it's going so fast. And yeah, so it's just adding a bit of gain here to the low end every time I play a note. So I'm getting a bit more bass. Right? So if I take it off, I would have less bass. This is adding a lot more low end. After that here, I have down here a wavetable LFO. And what this is doing is adding some modulation to the pitch here. So if I take this off... Right, that's the transient, that's the sample. So what this wavetable is doing now is I have it modulated here with this LFO down at the bottom right here. You can see it's basically just a down ramp LFO that's going down really quickly. So I'm basically just increasing the volume and then decreasing it really quick. Basically, I just want to affect the transient. That's what this is doing. So it's only going to affect the transient of the sound. And what it's going to do is it's going to modulate the pitch here. So if I play it. All right, so let's say I brought this up here just so we can, or maybe slow it down quite a bit. We can hear what it's going to do here. Right, so that's what it's doing to the sound. Right, it's making it kind of vibrate a little bit. But when it's going by really fast, it's just getting applied to the transient, so it feels like it punches out a bit more. So that's what this wavetable here is doing. And then after that, it's just a matter of adding some distortion, transient shaper, and disperser here on the tail. And that's pretty much it. So you'll see here, I have for the shaper table, this is being modulated, the mix is being modulated by the audio follower. So it's going to follow the audio signal that's coming in. And I have the same thing here being applied to the wavetable here. So again, based on whatever input source is going through here, it's going to affect how this is going to get applied. And then I just have a shaper table here, just a shaper distortion here, transient here, just to boost the attack, add a bit of pump, and then reduce the tail. I don't want too much tail, and then disperser here to add some of that low end. Right, but that's how I created those transient, impactful, crunchy layers. And then it's just a matter of like swapping out different sound samples and trying out different samples in there until I got sounds that I liked, and then I can just print them out and put them into here. So with that, let's break down these sounds with no processing, so we can hear how they got transformed into their final form. So here's the first layer. And our second layer. All right, so this second one is adding a lot of weight to that sound. Okay, let's go to our last two layers here, which is going to be our body and tail. You can see there's not too much processing on these. I kind of left them as is, but let's have a look at how I created those. All right, so this patch here is also kind of, the idea was to have some sort of like impact patch, but it ended up being more of the body of the explosion. But it's pretty simple, just like the other one here. So we have two samplers, and I have a random LFO here that is two different random LFOs. That one is assigned to each one individually so that they're not moving together across the sample. But basically, it's just to choose a different place across the sample to pick from every time I play, so it's always different. Okay, so that's the first thing. You'll see here I have a bit of a release here, 1.5 seconds, 1.7 seconds, just so I have a natural kind of tail when I let go of the sound after I trigger it. Here I have a bit of noise that I'm adding in. Right, it sounds like this. It's very minimal. What it is doing, though, the function of that noise there is really just to fill out any, the frequency spectrum, basically, just to fill out any kind of maybe dead space and just fill out the sound as much as possible, really. That's what it's there for. Not really necessary. It's an optional thing that you can have here. And that's pretty much it. After that, it's just a matter of adding some distortion. Again, I'm modulating the distortion with this envelope here. So the mix is going up and down. Same thing with this EQ here. It's being modulated by the envelope. and the lows as well with this envelope. So there's two different envelopes, but they're pretty similar. And that's it. And then again, same thing here. So here for the attack for the transient, I use a different technique. So instead of using an LFO like I did, like I showed previously, here I'm using a noise gate. So as long as I'm holding down a note on my MIDI keyboard here, the transient is going to be all the way up, so I get a transient. So if I want to keep it, if I play or hold a note on my MIDI keyboard, as the samples play, they're going to be very transient heavy. So you'll hear a lot of popping and stuff. Right? But if I just play like really quickly, only the beginning should have a transient. Right? And then the tail should kind of fade out smoothly. And then up here I have a macro, which is just increasing or decreasing the release of my sound so that it's either going to be longer or shorter. Right? So I have it really long or really short. Right? And that's pretty much it. It's a very basic patch, but with that I can swap out samples, try out different sounds, print them out, and that's how I created these. So here's the first layer. Right, so just adding a bit of punch there with Enforcer. And then our second layer here. And all together. All right, so experiment with each of these, experiment with those different types of layers. You can see here, you can get a lot of different results. So if I play some of these here for you that I created, you'll see the results are quite different. And you can create a lot of different variations and different types of impacts and explosions with that. All right, so I hope you found that useful and valuable. If you are interested in picking up some explosion sound packs, I made a whole entire sound effect bundle pack that you can get full of explosion sounds, realistic explosions, sci-fi explosions, water explosions. There's a whole bunch of different stuff, so I'll have that linked in the description below if you are interested in picking it up. So I think that's it for now. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. If you have any questions, leave it down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.